So our chat today is the role of athletic trainers in professional settings. And again, our special guest is Arnold Lee. So to introduce Arnold a little bit, talk him up, he is a 2010 graduate of our program, the University of Illinois at Chicago Kinesiology program, where he got his Bachelor of Science, and his master's degree is from the California Baptist University. Dr. Karrie Hamstra-Wright, so she is our Director of Undergraduate Studies. The thing I love about Dr. Hamstra-Wright is no matter how busy her day gets, she always makes an intentional effort to stop by and check on people, whether it's students or staff. She will always intentionally come by and check in on you to make sure that you're doing okay. Amy Jandek. Jandek is an amazing person, and I love running into her in the hallway in our little rotunda up in PED. And so if you are a student and you're interested in becoming a certified athletic trainer, Jandek is your go-to person. She's amazing, and she can kind of get the conversation started. So we are just going to kind of plug along. We're going to start, Arnold, if you're ready to kind of jump in. Can you talk to us a little bit about your path and the path to the Chicago Bulls and where you're at right now?
Absolutely. So I'll just start with where I started my career. I started with Athletico, and I was placed at Kennedy King College on the south side of Chicago, where I spent about 3.5 years there working with 4 sports. After about 3.5 years, I kind of went through some, I guess, quarter-life crisis where, I felt like I needed to do more for these kids and for my athletes. And so I decided that I was going to pursue another degree, PA school. So I actually applied to PA school. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to see it, I did not get in. But throughout my experience at Athletico and my networking that I did throughout the years, I was able to get a chance to work with the Chicago Bears as an intern. And I started out with the Bears in April, and I had a chance to apply and work as the intern for the whole year. I unfortunately did not get that as well, but I worked up until the end of their preseason, and literally on my last day of interning with the Bears, I was given a call by one of the managers at Athletico and was asked if I was still interested in the Chicago Bulls D-League position. At the time, there was a lot of talk around it. So little rewind, about a year before, whenever I had those company meetings with Athletico, I just kind of talked to the right people, trying to network, trying to get my face out in front, and just, let people know that I was interested in pursuing that if that was ever an option. And lo and behold, a year later, the right people still remembered my name and my face. And literally the last day of my internship with the Bears, I was given a call and was asked if I was interested. And that day I was speaking to the director of the Chicago Bulls of sports medicine, and I was talking to the head athletic trainer at the time. And it was right before a Cubs game, and it was just, it was a great 30-minute conversation. They didn't really ask about any of my skills that I had. It was just more of a get to know you kind of phone call. And fortunately for me, I was given that opportunity to be the first athletic trainer for the Chicago Bulls D-League team. I had a lot of struggles as a first-year position. I had to start from the ground up, and I had to learn really quick, right off the bat, of doing many, many jobs. As athletic trainers know, we tend to do a lot of jobs that have nothing to do with athletic training, but we seem to always end up doing it. So, whether that was equipment, whether that was travel, scheduling buses, meals, you name it. that was the NBA G League for you. And I got a quick baptism with fire, just right off the bat. After a year of that, I was fortunate enough to be in the right position and the right time to move up when our assistant athletic trainer at the time left to go to a different team. And I made a good enough impression with the front office and our sports medicine staff that I was able to move up to the assistant position 3 years ago. So that is a very quick explanation of how I got to the Chicago Bulls today.
Thank you. And then there's so much hard work. Like you said, there's a lot of hard work. You're going to have to be a team player and kind of get your hands dirty. So I appreciate you kind of taking us through a quick snapshot of how you got to where you are today. Can you talk to us about your average day? So, maybe preseason, postseason kind of day, and then maybe an in-season or a game day and your primary responsibilities there.
Yeah, so our preseason, kind of what right now is, a little different with COVID-19, but our general preseason and summer is usually a Monday through Friday type of deal, where we have guys coming in, from 9 to about 2. And guys will, usually get on the table before they lift or their on-court stuff. And the summer is kind of just wide open. There's really not a lot of structure. But it's nice to just be able to see faces you haven't seen since the season and stuff like that. So our organized preseason doesn't really start till after Labor Day. When that starts, it's Monday through Sunday, 9 to 4, 9 to 5, maybe even longer. Whatever, it depends on what they decide to do that day. And then once the season starts, a practice day is usually, I try to get in pretty early, probably around 8 a.m., make sure, the fridges are stocked, the, tables are clean, the air is clean. And then we'll have guys stroll in about 9 a.m. for treatments. And then we have a couple hours for guys to do their lifts before practice. And then practice starts about 11 o'clock. And on a good day, 90-minute practice. And then after that, we'll usually go to post-practice treatment. And then on a good day, after paperwork and all that, I'll probably get a workout in 2:30, and then I'll head home about 3:34. So that's a good day of a non-game day. Game days look a little different with morning shoot around. I'll get in about the same time, 8 o'clock. We'll have a shoot around. It's quick, about an hour. And then I actually get to go home for a little bit before the game, between 1 and 4 o'clock, which is nice. And then from 4 to 10:30, that's game time. So, on a good day, after a game, I'll probably leave the arena about 10:15, 10:30, depending on if guys want post-game treatments, which is always so fantastic. But yeah, we all know how that goes. And then we have travel, which is a completely different beast, and that is that gets wild. You never know about that.
And so on average, when you're traveling, how long are you typically gone? Is it a couple of days? Could it be a week?
Yeah, so fortunately for me, we had this long road trip called the circus trip, which is typically in November is when the circus come in town to the United Center, and they would usually be on the road for about 16 to 18 days. And unfortunately for me, I never had to experience that. So, most of our trips are pretty short. I think the longest I've been on the road was 11 days. And that's usually the West Coast trip. So, you know what, when it's 20 degrees here, and we're going to the West Coast for 11 days. I am not complaining.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to get a break from the Windy City for sure. So, and I'd love to hear from both Arnold and Amy on this one. Can you tell us an athlete success story? So you don't have to give us any names, obviously, but just, walk us through a time where, you were there from injury to return to play. What was your role, and what was that experience like? So we'll start with you, Amy, and then we'll switch back to Arnold. I think you're still on mute, Amy.
Sorry. One of it actually comes from when I was interning at a local high school, and we had a basketball player, varsity basketball player, and she's varsity all 4 years. She came in pretty hot, and she had just knee problems. We just dealt with knee issues, constant pain all the time, for 4 years. And I was not the head athletic trainer, obviously, I was as an intern, but I worked with her quite a bit, and she actually went on to be a superstar at Notre Dame. So it's pretty cool to see her. She was just interviewed 10 years that she's been out now, and she was just interviewed, and it was kind of nice to go back and see and read up on it, and say, I was part of that. It was pretty cool. The team at the time for senior year went second in state, and it was nice. Even as an intern, I got to go and travel with the team and stay in the hotel and go to all the games. And they did not win the championship, but it was really cool just to be there, be part of it.
Thank you. Arnold, do you have a success story that comes to mind?
Yes, absolutely. And this, I'll never forget, it was my first week at my new, and one of my players to my training room, and he had never been inside an athletic training room. His high school never had the resources. He came in. He's like, I heard you might be able to help me. And I said, oh, absolutely, sure. What's going on? And he mentioned some bad issues, and he was and he went with the doctor, and the doctor said, he's just going to have to wait out the bullet to come out. And, I'm sitting here for my first week in, and I was like, let's follow doctor's orders. And, I'll clean the dressing, and, I'll help you any way I can. And we'll try to get you ready for the season. But this is a little out of my scope of practice, but, we're going to get you to play. And, we had a little bumps in the road, but he actually got to start to play halfway through the season. And, I'll never forget that first game that he got to play, and just amazing to see him going up and down the court. And, I'll never forget it, that first week on the job.
Wow, that is, like you said, that's definitely a little outside of the scope, something that you weren't anticipating. Karrie, do you have an athlete success story?
It's been a while since I've treated, but I'm thinking about a long time ago when I first started as a student athletic trainer. And I think just being a part of the championship experience was just a real highlight. I was working with college football, and we had just recruited a bunch of new athletes that came to our school. So it was their first season with us, and they just had a lot of bumps and bruises. And the one that stands out to me the most was I think he was a cornerback, and we put him on the table, and we had him lying prone, so face down, and his hamstring was bothering him. And so we put him into knee flexion, and you could see there was a literal hole like this, however you want to do it, right, beneath his glute. A little divot beneath his glute that then came back up. One of his hamstring heads had avulsed from his ischial tuberosity, and he had no idea. He was still playing on it. He was like, just get me back out there, do what we have to do. We're this close to the championship game. And his mental capacity to detach those two things and say, I'm going to do this. It was, as a student intern, it would just reminded me of the power of the mind when it comes to injury rehabilitation. It was something I remembered throughout all of my both clinical experience, research experience, treating athletes, and now working student athletes. So he got on the field, and we won the NAIA championship. And kind of like what Amy and Arnold were saying, just to see athletes get from one place to another and really be able to visually kind of feel it with them. You'll never feel it exactly as they do, right? But be in that experience with them is just something that I think all three of us have already attested to is pretty rewarding. So, and Whitney, I'm sure you have those cases too.
Yeah, the story that kind of the athlete success story that comes to my mind is my first ACL repair, not repair, but rehabilitation. I had a student athlete. He came from 8th grade and had his ACL reconstructed, but didn't have access to constant care, constant rehabilitation. You know, in middle school, he didn't have an athletic trainer. And so he came into the athletic training room, kind of like Arnold said, I heard you could help me, you know, and his quad had atrophied quite a bit. And so I worked with him for months, and I was super proud. I was there when we returned him to play, and he decided he didn't want to play basketball anymore. He tore his ACL playing basketball, and he wanted to run track. So we had to switch his sport-specific kind of rehab towards the end to get him a little bit more ready for track instead of basketball, but to see him run his first track meet. And he was excited to see me there, and it was just an amazing transformation to see this young kid whose, you know, quad had atrophied so much, and to see him win a track race was an amazing experience. And to know that I was a part of that process made me feel like, A, I know what I'm doing, maybe, and B, it's nice to be a part of that small victory in their lives. So, all right. So talking about all that and kind of knowing what you know now, Arnold, talk to us about your UIC experience and how that helped transition you to getting those opportunities with the Bears and with the Bulls, and even preparing you to get into Cal Baptist.
Absolutely. I think I was a late bloomer. When I got to college, you know, I was a pre-dentistry major. I didn't know what to do. You know, halfway through my college career, my junior year, I switched over to movement sciences. And this was when I was just exposed to, you know, all the classes of movement science. And, you know, I started to learn that I actually liked the subject. And I didn't before with, you know, the other major that I was in. And the more and more that I was learning about things, the more and more I liked it. But I think what set it apart was that towards the very end of my college career, I just put myself out there and, you know, asked questions and went to professors and just talked and just inquired about, you know, different careers and different pathways I could take. And, you know, I really wish I would have done that sooner. But like I said, you know, being a late bloomer, just not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, I got into the game a little late. But I think that really set me up. That, you know, last semester, that last year really set me up for the future where, you know, I learned that being a little vulnerable and being able to talk to professors and talking to or networking with people and putting myself in, you know, situations that I may not be completely comfortable with is, you know, the best thing to do. Just ask questions and be curious. I think that was the best thing that I could have learned, and what I did, because especially at UIC and with Dr. Hamstra-Wright, it's like she was just always willing to listen, and I think that in itself really kind of drew me to the profession of athletic training. I was like, wow, like I think I want to do that, because I saw a role model in that profession. So UIC definitely molded me into who I am today as a professional, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. A little fun fact, Dr. Hamstra-Wright was a faculty member in the undergraduate program that I was a part of in Iowa. I did not know her. I was a pre-athletic training student, and she was teaching upper-level students. But like Arnold said, I heard really good things. And so when I came to UIC, I was like, I know you. So the world of athletic training is large and very small all at the same time. So I'd love to hear from Amy and Dr. Hamstra-Wright on this one, and talking about your classes, like 331 and 261. You know, how do you help students transition from the UIC kinesiology program to that certified athletic training role? So we'll start with Dr. Hamstra-Wright, and then we'll transition to Amy.
Thank you, guys, for those kind words. I feel very pensive thinking about both my experience with Arnold in class and my experience at UNI. You know, students are the heartbeat of what I do, and I can say that's true for all of our faculty and staff. We really, really, really care about our students. And so to see you, Arnold, doing what you're doing, following your passion, and regardless of what field that led you down, is a real reward to see. So thank you for being here, and both of your kind words. You know, my class 261, Applied Musculoskeletal Anatomy, is a prerequisite for Professor Jandek's class 331, Sport and Exercise Injury Management. So, and it also is sandwiched between 331 and 251, which is our AMP1 class. And that's really purposeful, because in AMP1, you learn the structures of the human body. You learn this is this muscle. You learn the biceps connects here, and it flexes the arm, right? And then in 261, we flip that around, and we say, instead of what does the biceps do, we say, what happens when you are doing a pull-up? What muscles are working? Okay, what muscles are working when you're doing a squat? What muscles are working when you are climbing the stairs, that type of thing. So we take a real functional approach to anatomy. We essentially are looking at anatomy and action specific to exercise, sport, and activities of daily living. And with athletic training, it is essential for you to know your anatomy, right? You need to know what's injured, and you need to know what connects to what, and how when you have a shoulder injury, it could actually be coming because you have limited range of motion in your toe, okay? And so 261 is the applied anatomy course I teach, really strives to emphasize not only anatomy and action, but how we are all the segments of our body and the muscles of our body are linked together, and how when one chain link is off, it can affect something else all the way on the other side of the body. And so it's meant to serve as a nice foundation for Instructor Jandek's class that then dives into those specific injuries. So I'll pass the baton to you, Instructor Jandek.
Thank you. So 331, Sport and Exercise Injury Management, just like Dr. Hamstra-Wright said, it follows anatomy and 261, and it goes into basically the injury, all the injuries that athletic trainers would typically see. Nothing too crazy, things that I've never seen. These are all injuries that I've seen in my years of practicing, and it ranges from, you know, all the sports, injuries you'd see in football to dancing, gymnastics, and it basically, it starts with the healing process, and what does the body need to do to itself to begin the healing for every injury. It doesn't matter where it is, upper body, lower body, but what does the body need to do the minute an injury occurs. So we take it from that point, and then what do we do for treatment? What's our initial stage of treatment all the way to the functional stage of treatment and getting that athlete to return to play? And it's a great class, and I encourage all students, if you're even thinking about med school, PT, OT, anything related to the sports medicine umbrella fields, take 261, take 331, and they don't disappoint. Those classes are, I think those classes are amazing. I think Dr. Hamstra-Wright is amazing in the way she teaches, and I hope that, students come in and get the same kind of feel from my class that they do from 261. So it's a great class.
Yeah, thank you. If we have any aspiring strength and conditioning folks in the house, Amy also teaches KN 450, exercise programming for athletic performance. So I love that class for my aspiring strength and conditioning coaches. If you're just entering UIC and you're looking for a gen ed, KN 150, the Healthy Human, which is taught by yours truly, Dr. Hamstra-Wright. So it's a good way to get introduced to our curriculum and program there. And something else that we do as an advising team, Abby and I, our colleague Joe, we do help students transition from the undergraduate to graduate level programs like athletic training through pre-health advising. So we take that very seriously, and we work with you to build your coursework, to make sure that we're answering your questions as it pertains to what you need to get into those programs and giving you some suggestions to make you a competitive candidate. So it's something that's actually really, really fun for us. So I'd love to hear more about, I think we all love athletic training and what it's taught us, where it's brought us. I've traveled far more than I thought I would. I'm doing double headers in Texas. Didn't think I would be doing that, but I certainly was. And so talk to us, Arnold. I'd love to hear the joys of working in that professional setting and then some of the challenges that you've seen working in that professional setting.
Absolutely. So I actually tore my ACL about 3 years ago, and I had to go through that whole process of rehabbing my ACL. And crazy enough, that same year we had an athlete who was also coming back from ACL. So, it was very interesting perspective of going through that same injury as your athlete as well, and just kind of seeing your progress as well as his progress. Obviously, this athlete is far more elite and was progressing far more faster than I was, but it was just, apart from even the physical aspect of getting better, I think I was able to kind of mentally get to where he needed to as well. I think that's such an important, Amy and Dr. Hamstra can talk, and also Whitney, you can probably talk about this as well. It's the mental aspect of coming back from an injury is so important. And, going through that at the same time as my athlete and feeling what I was feeling mentally really helped me to kind of connect with my athlete on a level that I was not able to before. So, it was unfortunate that injury happened to me, but I think that connection that I made with that athlete was something that I don't think I would have been able to do if I hadn't gone through that myself. So, that staying on the whole athletic training, that is definitely one of the joys of athletic training on every level. Just again, like we always talk about, watching our athlete come back from an injury. So yeah.
And anything from a challenge perspective something you've run across that you weren't anticipating and that you were able to overcome?
Yeah, so, it's interesting when my friends ask, what are these guys like? And, they're normal kids. To me, they're kids. They're 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. They're kids, and they're they're so normal. They just happen to make a lot of money playing basketball. But with that said, I love all of the guys that I have encountered and have worked with. But you'll always get that one. And I think, it is definitely the setting. Guys are paid a lot of money, and some of them just don't understand that you're the first person in and the last person to leave. And that, again, that mentality is, from high school to professional, but, man, that is a challenge at times. And, in different settings, you may be able to get away with like, hey, like, if you don't, then we're going to look to, I'm going to tell your coach and, he'll figure something, disciplinary action, but with some of these guys, they don't care. Financially, they can just pay it off if there's a fine, or, if they're really good, then they'll just be like, well, who are you? They're not going to ever, sit me or suspend me, So, unfortunately, for the most part, I have not had to deal with that with our team. And we actually have very wonderful guys on our team, and really respectful. And even, we have the backing of our owners and our front office. So haven't had to deal with too much of that, but that is definitely a big challenge at times.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, communication is so key, whether it's your student athletes, coaches, parents. It can be kind of a challenge. That's something that you kind of learn how to navigate as you transition through your career. So thank you for sharing that. Amy, what about you? Joys and challenges, athletic training.
The joys, I really liked working with the high school athletes. And, the majority of them are there to play. They want to play. They want to win. And that's why you go to work every day. It's not really for the ones that say, I just want to look good in the uniform. I don't actually want to do anything. And there are a few that just simply are there because they want to wear the uniform. It sounds cool to say, I play on this team. And then there are some that are, only playing because their parents have made them play. But for the ones that want to be there and you got to watch those. Those are the ones who won't come and tell you something hurts. You really got to pay attention. I had 13 teams each season. So, you're kind of bouncing around from practice to practice. You got to get to know all of them. And that ranges from freshman, sophomore, junior varsity, and you got to kind of get to know all of them and figure out, okay, which ones are hiding pain, because you have to explain, hey, if you leave this and you don't let me help you, this is how it's going to progress, and then you're going to be out for the season. So it's really breaking through and getting that relationship developed with, each individual player and saying, you need to trust me. I'm not here. And, they all think that you're there to hold them out because they're not going to be able to play if they go see the athletic trainer. And I said, that's not my job. My job is to keep you playing. So you kind of got to get to know them. And it's when you develop that, when I develop that relationship with each individual person and say, you can trust me, and they do, that's the joy, is saying, I'm here to help you, and I'm going to keep you playing, as long as we can, and this is how we're going to do it. The one thing I miss the most is standing out on the sidelines of Friday night football. It was the lights, the action. My team, we knew my first week at my high school was my first Friday night game. I had started Monday, and a woman I didn't know, she was wearing a vest, so she was obviously one of the deans for security or something. And she said, "Oh, you're the new AT," and she said, "Be prepared for them to lose every game." So I thought she was talking about the football, and she said, and then she added, there's a little pause, dramatic pause, and she says, "In every sport." And I'm like, wow, okay, so this is what I'm in for at this school. And there was a lot of losing, a whole lot of losing, but it didn't matter. It mattered that I was there for them. Even when the score, of their football game was 52-3, and we weren't on the 52 side. It's just fun. I love the profession. I love everything about the profession. There are a few things I dislike, and we'll get into those challenges. But I really do love the profession. I can't say enough about it. As for the challenges, some of the athletes were challenges, but I'll ignore that. They're in high school, whatever. I worked at a very low-income school. We didn't have anything. We barely had an athletic training room. It was an addition. It was at the bottom of 5 stairs, which is a no-no when you're building athletic training rooms. You don't have them at the bottom of stairs. And that's where mine was. We did not have a floor drain. I'm pretty sure this was a closet that was transformed. It was a storage room of some sort. So we didn't have a floor drain. So in order to drain 10 gallons of water, I'd have to lift the bucket to the sink. I found very unique ways to work smarter, not harder at this school. You are the first one there. You're the last one to leave. I've had them where I was parking the gator in the back of the shed, and it was the farthest corner you could get to, and they shut the lights out on me. I literally had no light. I had my hand on a chain link fence to guide me because it was pitch dark, to guide me out of this, and then headlights came on, and it scared the crud out of me. I had no idea what these headlights were on in the parking lot, and it was my assistant AD, and she said, "I knew you were still out there." At one of my freshman football games, we had a kid go down. He broke his leg. I did not have the fancy sling packs that everybody goes out running on the field with. We didn't have that, and I wasn't going to lug, on the wheels and lug this thing across the field. So embarrassing. He had broken his leg. I had nothing. I had to look at EMS and say, "Just get out here." And the opposing team had 6 athletic trainers there. 3 were hired, 3 were student ATs. But they had 6 bodies over there. They splinted him, and I'm sitting there holding this kid's hand, saying, "Hey, dude, I know it hurts. We're going to get you through this." And I was so embarrassed. We had nothing. I had to let the opposing team splint this kid's leg with EMS there. So, that's a challenge. It depends on the school you're at and what your resources are. We got the kid back playing after we patched up both his bones. I didn't do the patching, but, I did the rehab, and we got him back playing. But that was another success story. But those are the challenges, You work within the confines of what you have, and you just do the best you can for each and every athlete.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think you hit it on the head. That's a misconception, is that athletic trainers are there to say, "No, you can't play." And you build that rapport, and you let them know that I am here to help you return to play safely. I am here to help you do what you want to do, but we have to make sure that you're safe. And so once you build that rapport and explain that to them, like you said, then they just come in. They're looking for you. Where's Whitney? Where's Amy, right? And so you build that rapport and let them know why you're really there. And the flip side, I 100% agree. Depends on what school district you work for, how many resources you had. So I've been there before where you're like, "So I need this, this, and this." So they're kind of like, "Okay, well, you can have this." And it's like, one of the 3. Okay, I'll take it. And so you definitely have to be creative.
I love the schools that would roll up with all of their equipment in a trailer.
Oh, yeah.
And here's me rolling up in my car and just carrying my bag,
Yeah.
I mean, it just depends.
You gotta make friends with your athletic director if you're thinking about going into the high school setting, I'll tell you that. All right, Dr. Hamstra-Wright, your joys and challenges.
Yeah, I agree. There is something about Friday night high school football, Amy. There's just something about it. I'm having a hard time putting words around it, but there's just something about it that's pretty special. When I was covering high school football, I found that to be true as well. In more recent years, my work has focused on overuse injuries, particularly in endurance athletes. And so my joys most recently have been in that area, and it's a sport I also love. So being able to share that with athletes and find ways for them to get back to safe training, particularly stress fractures, has kind of been the area where I've been working the most with the college athletes, and figuring out how to come back safely to track and field and cross country post stress fracture. Or we've been doing some gait analysis too to hopefully prevent injuries. So the joys in that is just seeing athletes do what they love. Being able to do what they love is just, it's so rewarding for them to be able to return to sport or enter into their sport. We usually do these things preseason, right? Enter into their sport with more confidence. And I've also really enjoyed in more recent years too, working with our coaches on this aspect. So there's been some nice collaboration with the coaches. And when you can partner with coaches that are equally invested in the student's health and understand the role of the athletic trainer, I have found that to be really, really joyful. So the challenges, I would say, you guys have already mentioned the non-traditional work hours when you're practicing athletic trainer, and I agree with that. That's what I've seen the most from, especially from our students entering the field. But another area I think that is a challenge is educating the public on who athletic trainers are and what we do. And once they learn, they love us, right? But it's explaining the difference between who we are relative to other healthcare providers and how we all fit. Like, there's no need to be competitive with each other. We all have our place in healthcare, and we all bring something unique to the healthcare arena. And our role specific to athletes, I think, is really invaluable. And the wider public and parents and coaches really need to understand that more. And I think our profession at large is doing a better and better job of that. And as individuals, I think it's also incumbent upon us as athletic trainers to educate as well. And that can be a bit challenging. But it is, as both Arnold and instructor Jandek have said, such a rewarding field. And yeah, I can't say much other than those two challenges. Besides, the reward, I think, outweighs those challenges, I would say. So
thank you, and you bring up a really good point. So Dr. Hamstra-Wright, if I'm a new kinesiology student and I'm, transitioning into the undergrad program, and people are asking me, what are you going to do? And I want to be an athletic trainer. How would I explain that to my parents or to somebody that's just asking me, what am I going to school for? What's the elevator speech on what an athletic trainer is?
I see instructor Jandek smiling. She's got one too, I know.
We'll come to you next.
I know she's got a good one. And so when I think of the first thing I often encourage people to think about is, hey, are you watching TV and you see the person run onto the field when the injury goes down? That's an athletic trainer. And I always say, I'm so disappointed when they go to commercial because I want to see what's happening, right? And so that helps people get a picture of a traditional athletic trainer. And then opens up the window for me to explain that's one setting for athletic training, and there are many other settings for athletic trainers, right? So we have some that are working now as physician extenders. We have some that are working now in more extreme sports. We have some working, and then I can explain all the different levels, right? Youth sports, and we have some that work on TV sets, right? And those are small and few in between, right? But the traditional athletic trainer is your high school, college, pro setting, and we are the first responders, right? We're involved with both the first responding, we're involved with the prevention of injury, and then I think one of the things that is most rewarding when I think about athletic trainer is that we are with the athlete from the time they get injured to the time they get back on the field. Whereas if you think about physical therapy and occupational therapy, they don't have the opportunity to see the injury happen, right? They're part of that rehab process, and an important part. Okay, we can talk. We have more time about how we all work together. Okay, but that's usually about the way I go about introducing the field. So, testing time.
Thank you. All right, Jandek, what do you have to say? How can I, as a new kinesiology student wanting to transition into athletic training, how do I explain that to people?
The one thing that bothers me the most, I guess, is I wear athletic training gear everywhere I go. My coat that I wear in the winter, it says athletic trainer across it. That's my main coat. People look at it and say, oh, an athletic trainer. I've had people, they grab the beer belly and they go, oh, I need one of those. I said, yeah, that's not me. And I've had that conversation with people who say, well, what's the difference? Well, You know the person who's the first person to get down to a fallen athlete and they're wearing khakis and a stripe, some sort of collared shirt with a stripe down the side? Because we all have those. I said, that's the athletic trainer. He's the one who wears the khakis and is the first person to a downed athlete. And just exactly what Dr. Hamstra-Wright said. We're there from start to finish. We're there when the injury happens. We're there, the day that the person goes back to return to play, RTP, that we're right there saying, hey, I'm going to be there for the first moments you get back out in a game, and you're just watching that athlete to make sure there's nothing going wrong. It's the treatment, from the treatment to the rehab and everything in between, including prevention. We're there to prevent injuries too. And that's how I try to explain it to people, that it's injury focused and not, say, fitness focused. Although fitness is a part of it, we are injury focused.
Yeah, thank you for kind of explaining the difference. I think that's a misconception as well with the public trying to understand the difference between personal training and the fitness level there, and then athletic training and the prevention and treatment of injuries and return to play. So thank you for clarifying. So as we kind of wrap up, I would love to hear the advice that you have for students. If you're thinking about transitioning to athletic training, you're entering your undergraduate career, but your ultimate goal is to really become a certified athletic trainer. Arnold, what advice do you have? And if the little one has advice too, we'll take it.
Sorry, I was trying to hide her from out of the picture, but here she is. She can't help herself. She loves the camera. Like I shared earlier about my UIC experience, it's, I wish I wasn't scared to ask the question that I had. And I wish I wasn't afraid to go and talk to my professors and really inquire about what it was that I wanted to do and about different professions. I would encourage every student to put yourself out there. There's nothing wrong with asking a question and being curious. So, whether you're a freshman or you're a senior or you're out of school, ask the questions because you'll never regret asking a question, but you'll always regret not knowing the answer and wasting the time, regretting that. So, that's my number one advice. And my second advice would be to network as much as you can. Whoever you meet, whatever function you go to, put a face to the name. You don't understand how useful and how helpful that is when you're in the future, when you're trying to get a job. It is ridiculous. Someone mentioned this earlier. The athletic training profession is very large, but it's very small as well. Everyone knows each other. So I can't tell you how many times, even just my short time with the Chicago Bulls, where we've gotten a resume and I was like, oh, wait, I know this person. I met this person one other time. That person came up to me, asked questions, or we had this conversation. I was like, oh, absolutely. We're going to have this person come in and have at least a conversation or, an interview. So no interaction is too small. So, I would encourage, every student, ask the questions that you want to ask and network with people that you want to network with. And you'll be successful with those two things.
Thank you. Amy, what advice do you have for students looking to transition into athletic training?
There's so many different areas that, an athletic trainer can go. I always tell people, shadow, and it doesn't have to be a lengthy, just shadow for a day. Go to the high school setting and go to different high school settings. Go to the Catholic school or go to the public school. Go to the low-income school. Find an athletic trainer in an industrial setting and see what that's like. That's mostly, deals with most often prevention. Go see Pat Donovan and see what it's like to be in a college setting. I mean, it's great that they have the resources. I mean, in Chicago, we have so many different high schools that they can get to. St. Ignatius right there, and our Flames has great athletic trainers, and go and see what each setting looks like. Hey, go to Montana and see what it's like to be an athletic trainer at the rodeo. I mean, even theater, ballet has athletic trainers. Just don't close your eyes to what's out there. Don't just say, well, I saw what my high school athletic trainer went through, and I don't want to do that. But if you like the field, there's something else.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I actually worked with Trinity Irish Dance when I was with a physical therapy company in the area. I did not think I was going to be doing that, but that was a really great experience, getting you kind of away from your traditional football and basketball and swimming and water polo. So it's definitely interesting to be in performing arts. Dr. Hamstra-Wright, what is your advice for students that want to transition to athletic training?
Yeah, I love what Instructor Jandek and Arnold have shared already, and building off that word curiosity that Arnold was using. And I would say, it's really important to know your anatomy. It's really important to know what an injury is and why it happened and how to write your SOAP notes and how to palpate, all the things that Instructor Jandek will teach you. And then after that, it's for lifelong, it's really important that you're always curious, because the human body is fascinating, and we do not even begin to know everything about it. There's so much unknown about the human body. So I would say that same spirit of curiosity, take that same spirit of curiosity that Arnold had talked about, and ask why. Why do we do this? Why does the body do this? Question things. Ask people in the field why they treat like they do, or what their perspective is. Learn as much as you can. I think the more you can start stacking things on to that foundational knowledge and seeing the human body in unique ways, the more it can set you apart as a clinician in the field. And also, second thing I would add is, many of you, Whitney, Amy, Arnold, you've all commented today about the athletic trainer does much more than take care of injury. You really care for a person holistically. So students, build your soft skills, okay, to communication, leadership, professionalism, learning how to work with the mindset and its role in injury, right? Those things are really, I think, important skills as an athletic trainer too. So those would be, I think, two of the things that stand out in regards to preparing for the field.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. That's going to kind of wrap up our questions for this afternoon. Thank you so very much to our students that are in attendance. Arnold, thank you for your time. We know that you are busy, so we really appreciate you joining us here today. And Dr. Hamstra-Wright and Amy Jandek, thank you very, very much. I very much appreciate the both of you. If there are any questions from our students or our attendees, go ahead and drop them in the chat. We're happy to kind of clear up anything or answer anything that you wanted to hear today. While we're kind of waiting for any student questions, I have a question mainly for Amy Jandek and Dr. Hamstra-Wright. How have you both prepared to teach in an online or a hybrid setting in the fall? Is there anything that you've done to prepare yourself to teach in that platform?
I'll leave it to you, Instructor Jandek.
So being forced into it, in March is a little different. It was just kind of, throw things together as quickly as I can. But now I've got time to plan. So I'm trying to add more videos since I'm not in person. And in person, I'm very animated, and I try to bring the outside athletic training into the classroom and experiences and everything else. I think that's going to be a little different this fall, so I'm trying to incorporate more videos to try to explain things, not just from my perspective, but what others and how others present. Just a different way to present material, I think, is how I'm going to approach this full online lecture this time.
Yeah, and I can speak from the perspective of all of our kinesiology classes. One of the things I was just telling a colleague about, I was on a call before this webinar, was how proud I am of UIC for offering a mix of various types of courses. And I'm especially proud of our kinesiology undergraduate program and the faculty that have gone all in and said, yes, we're going to offer our courses in a mixed way so that students who are comfortable coming to campus can do so in a safe environment for a select portion of our classes, like Instructor Jandek's labs will be in person, right? Students that do not want to come to campus or do not feel comfortable coming to campus will not be penalized for that. Our faculty is working really hard to make sure students can access all materials remotely, right? And we have a nice mix of fully online, fully in person, and then a nice mix of hybrid courses. So we're really hoping to meet students where they're at, because everybody's responding differently and feeling differently about the state of the world right now. And so we recognize that, and we just really want you all to know that we're working hard to have health and safety guidelines in place while delivering a high quality educational experience. So your faculty members have been in school themselves this summer learning just how to do that, with grades attached, I might add.
Yep.
Thank you so much for explaining that. We are definitely working hard to make sure that all of our UIC students have a positive experience in the fall. Well, that'll wrap us up for today. We just want to say again, thank you to our special guests, our panelists, for sharing their experiences in the field of athletic training in the professional setting. Really helpful information. If you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to contact us. So Dr. Hamstra-Wright, her contact information, Amy, Jandek, and the advising team